I felt the cold rush of water surge over me, crashing into my ears and filling my mouth. It happened so fast, I didn't even realize I'd fallen into the pool until the muffled laughter broke through my submerged haze. Struggling to resurface, my eyes stung as chlorine invaded my vision. I broke the water's surface, gasping desperately for air, coughing violently as my hair clung to my face. Voices filled with cruel amusement swirled around me. "Oh my God, did you see her face?" A shrill laugh echoed from the patio. "Someone get this waitress a life jacket." Another voice mocked from somewhere behind me. Embarrassment burned my cheeks hotter than the sun blazing above. I frantically wiped the water from my eyes, desperately searching for the edge of the pool. I caught a glimpse of the woman responsible, Kelsey, a spoiled guest I politely asked to step away from the poolside earlier. Her smug grin confirmed this was no accident. I finally grasped the slippery tile ledge, my hands trembling as I pulled myself out of the water, my uniform clinging heavily to my body, dripping onto the pristine tiles. My manager stood frozen nearby, doing nothing to intervene as Kelsey and her friends pointed and laughed loudly. "Careful now," Kelsey sneered, her voice dripping with cruelty. "Wouldn't want you slipping again, sweetie. Or maybe we would. It's the best entertainment we've had all day." My eyes burned with tears of humiliation and rage, but I refused to let them fall. The sun beat down mercilessly, magnifying my shame. I felt exposed, powerless, stripped of dignity. I glanced around at the faces surrounding me, wealthy, entitled guests lounging comfortably, openly amused by my humiliation. Then, as my gaze dropped to the water puddling beneath my soaked shoes, a deep, authoritative voice sliced through the air. "That's enough." The laughter ceased instantly, replaced by a stunned silence. I turned, startled, to see a man stepping out from beneath a shaded table. His tall frame was commanding, his posture exuding authority, and his gaze coldly directed toward Kelsey and her friends. Even dripping wet and embarrassed, I recognized him immediately. Nathaniel Beckett, a billionaire businessman who frequented the hotel, known for his aloofness and prestige. Kelsey scoffed, trying to maintain her arrogant composure. "Oh, lighten up. We were just having fun." Nathaniel's eyes narrowed dangerously. His presence alone had changed the entire atmosphere around the poolside. "Fun at whose expense?" he demanded sharply, stepping closer. "Publicly humiliating someone. That makes you feel powerful." Kelsey's friends exchanged nervous glances, clearly uncomfortable under Nathaniel's scrutiny. Even my manager shifted awkwardly, suddenly realizing the severity of the situation. Nathaniel's piercing gaze then shifted to me. In that brief moment, warmth flooded his expression, gentle concern replacing the cold fury he had directed at my tormentors. Without another word, he stepped toward me, smoothly shrugging off his tailored jacket and wrapping it gently around my shivering shoulders. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly, his voice low and filled with genuine compassion. I swallowed, struggling to steady my breathing. "Yes, thank you," I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. His jacket felt comforting, carrying a scent of something soothing yet powerful. Expensive cologne, warmth, confidence. Nathaniel nodded, briefly squeezing my shoulder in reassurance before turning sharply toward my manager, who seemed to shrink beneath his gaze. "I'd like a word with you, privately." "Now." My manager's face paled, and he stumbled over himself to follow Nathaniel away from the poolside, leaving behind stunned, silent spectators. I pulled the jacket tighter around me, noticing the lingering gazes of guests now heavy with awkwardness and guilt. But Kelsey, stubbornly defiant, rolled her eyes dramatically, dismissing the entire situation. "Oh, please. So dramatic," she muttered. Ignoring her, I gathered my dignity and moved carefully toward the locker rooms, still trembling from embarrassment. But deep within me, something else sparked to life, an unexpected feeling of hope, gratitude, and quiet strength ignited by Nathaniel's surprising intervention. Little did I know, that humiliating fall into the pool was only the beginning of something far greater, something that would forever alter the trajectory of my life. I stood alone in the locker room, pressing Nathaniel Beckett's jacket tightly around me as I leaned against the cool, tiled wall. The echoes of laughter still haunted me, but Nathaniel's calm, powerful voice had sliced through my shame like sunlight through storm clouds. His kindness had left me breathless and confused. Men like him rarely even acknowledge people like me. The door creaked open suddenly, jolting me from my thoughts. I tensed, expecting more humiliation, but instead found Nathaniel standing in the doorway, his powerful frame filling the entrance. His dark eyes softened immediately upon seeing me, his concern evident. "Sorry to intrude," he began gently, stepping inside and closing the door. "But I wanted to ensure you were genuinely all right." His sincerity disarmed me completely. Tears welled in my eyes, this time not from humiliation, but from the overwhelming kindness of a stranger who owed me nothing. Okay," I stammered softly, glancing down at my soaked uniform, embarrassed at how pitiful I must have appeared. "I just wasn't expecting anyone to care." Nathaniel stepped closer, his voice firm, yet comforting. "Nobody deserves to be treated like that. It takes a lot of courage to face humiliation and maintain your composure. You impress me." My eyes widened, my heart fluttering unexpectedly. "Thank you. That means a lot, especially coming from you." He smiled slightly, the first genuine warmth I'd seen from him, a sharp contrast from his intimidating public image. "I know people think I'm cold and distant, but believe it or not, I wasn't always wealthy or influential. I know how it feels to be invisible, to be laughed at." His admission shocked me. Nathaniel Beckett, one of the most powerful men in the country, vulnerable? I stared up into his earnest eyes, sensing truth in his words. "You?" I asked in disbelief. "I find it hard to imagine." Nathaniel chuckled quietly, a genuine smile softening his strong features. "Appearances are rarely the whole story. It's what we overcome in silence that defines us." My heart pounded as I held his gaze, recognizing sincerity and understanding in his eyes. "Thank you for stepping in," I murmured quietly. "I'm Ava, by the way." He smiled warmly, extending his hand. "Nice to formally meet you, Ava. I'm Nathaniel. Listen, my driver's waiting outside. I can give you a ride home if you'd like. You shouldn't stay here, not after what happened." My mind raced with hesitation and disbelief. Could I really trust someone like Nathaniel Beckett? But the warmth and sincerity radiating from his eyes convinced me. "Okay," I whispered, nodding shyly. "Thank you." With that simple decision, I unknowingly took the first step into an entirely new world, one filled with kindness, redemption, and an unexpected connection that would soon leave everyone around us completely shocked. I had no idea that day at the pool would mark the turning point in my life, the moment I finally reclaimed my dignity, my dreams, and ultimately my future. And the powerful man beside me, the billionaire whose kindness sparked it all, was about to become my greatest ally, leading me toward a destiny neither of us saw coming. But before any of that could unfold, I had to brace myself for the wave of consequences that Nathaniel's act of kindness would unleash, changing my life, and his, forever. The drive away from the hotel was filled with an awkward silence that somehow felt strangely comforting. Sitting in the plush interior of Nathaniel's luxury SUV, still damp from the humiliating incident at the poolside, I tried not to stare at the lavish leather seats or the subtle elegance of his car's interior. My heart still fluttered from the surreal events of the past hour, and I struggled to find words to break the tension. Nathaniel finally glanced over, his dark eyes gentle yet probing. "Ava, forgive me if I'm overstepping, but is your manager always that indifferent?" I sighed softly, tightening my grip around his jacket, still draped protectively around me. "He usually doesn't notice me at all. I've learned to blend in. It's safer that way." Nathaniel's jaw clenched slightly, frustration clear on his handsome features. People like that infuriate me, thinking they can treat others poorly because of their status. He paused, eyes lingering on me for a moment. "You deserve better." I felt warmth bloom in my chest, fighting the lingering chill from the pool. His words were simple, but filled with a sincerity I'd rarely experienced. I hesitated, biting my lip, unsure of how honest I should be. "Honestly, it's been rough lately. I took that job hoping it would change things for me, but it's only reminded me how disposable I am." Nathaniel nodded, the muscle in his jaw tightening slightly. He pulled the car to a gentle stop at a quiet roadside park overlooking the city skyline, the glowing sunset painting everything gold. Turning toward me, he said softly, "Believe me, Ava, no one is disposable. Sometimes the world makes us feel small, but it doesn't mean we are." My heart skipped at the intensity in his voice. Here was a billionaire, someone powerful enough to command any room, speaking to me as though my worth was obvious. "I guess I've just stopped believing that anyone could see me differently," I admitted quietly, avoiding his eyes. Nathaniel's voice softened even further, almost a whisper. "I know exactly how you feel." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed insistently, breaking our intimate moment. I reluctantly glanced at the screen, anxiety gnawing at me as my manager's name appeared. Nathaniel noticed my hesitation. "Answer it on speaker," he encouraged gently. "I'm right here." Nodding slowly, I accepted the call, heart racing. My manager's voice immediately crackled through, brimming with irritation. "Ava, you're fired. Embarrassing us in front of guests like that. This is unacceptable. Don't even bother coming back." The line went silent. A devastating emptiness flooded me. Even knowing how awful my boss was, hearing those words still hurt deeply. Nathaniel's jaw tightened as he reached out, gently placing his hand over mine in quiet support. Before I could respond, Nathaniel's voice cut sharply into the call. "Excuse me, who do you think you are to talk to her like that?" Silence followed, my manager clearly shocked to hear the unmistakable voice of Nathaniel Beckett. "Mr. Beckett? I didn't realize you were with her." "Obviously," Nathaniel said, voice dripping with cold authority. "You seem to enjoy humiliating employees. Perhaps we should see how the hotel's investors feel about their staff being treated this way." Panic filled the line. "Sir, please, it was just a misunderstanding. I wasn't actually—" "Save it," Nathaniel snapped. "Ava deserves an apology and your immediate resignation. Otherwise, you'll soon be explaining your behavior to the entire board." There was another pause, tense and strained, before my manager muttered quietly, humiliated, "I'm sorry, Ava." Nathaniel disconnected the call, letting out a frustrated sigh as he pulled into a quiet parking area, turning to face me. "You deserve dignity and respect, Ava. Remember that." My hands shook as I fought tears of relief and gratitude. Why would you do this for me?" Nathaniel's gaze softened again, his eyes thoughtful. "Because once upon a time, someone stepped up for me when I needed it most. I promised myself I'd always do the same." Curiosity burned within me. Who was Nathaniel Beckett, really? What hidden past shaped such a powerful man to feel such compassion? My thoughts were interrupted as Nathaniel parked the car in front of an elegant building that clearly belonged to a different world than the one I knew. "Come inside," Nathaniel said softly, offering me a reassuring smile. "Let's get you dried off and figure out what's next." I followed him into the lobby of his luxury penthouse, my shoes squeaking loudly against polished marble floors, embarrassment threatening to resurface. Yet Nathaniel walked beside me, unconcerned by the dripping trail I left behind, guiding me toward a spacious living room that overlooked the city skyline. "I'll have dry clothes brought in," he assured me softly. "Make yourself comfortable." I took a cautious seat on the edge of a velvet sofa, feeling utterly out of place yet strangely safe in his presence. As Nathaniel stepped into another room, I caught sight of framed photographs along the wall, hinting at glimpses of a man I'd never imagined, smiling genuinely, surrounded by family, clearly loved. A gentle knock broke my trance, and an older woman entered, smiling warmly as she placed fresh clothes beside me. "Mr. Beckett asked me to prepare these. He doesn't often have visitors," she added softly, eyes twinkling knowingly, "but when he does, they're special." Blushing, I thanked her and quickly changed, marveling at how perfectly the clothes fit, how right it felt to be treated with such respect. The billionaire's kindness felt so genuine, yet so foreign, leaving my heart and mind spinning with possibility. When Nathaniel returned, his gaze lingered on me appreciatively, yet respectfully. "You look better," he said softly, a small smile curving his lips. "Feel up to joining me for dinner?" Surprise rendered me momentarily speechless. This couldn't possibly be real. Just hours ago, I was mocked, humiliated, and discarded. Now I stood in a billionaire's penthouse, feeling seen, valued, and safe. I'd love to. I finally managed to whisper, my voice trembling slightly. He nodded warmly, clearly pleased, before offering his arm, guiding me gently toward a grand dining area. As we walked, I realized that Nathaniel Beckett wasn't just changing my circumstances. He was giving me something far more valuable: hope. Yet, as we settled into dinner, a realization struck me. Nothing in Nathaniel's world was ever truly simple. This act of kindness had set off a chain of events that would bring buried secrets to the surface, challenge loyalties, and force us both to confront truths we weren't prepared to face. As night fell over the city, our lives became irrevocably intertwined. Little did I know, a single moment of humiliation at a hotel pool would soon thrust me into the heart of a dramatic, suspenseful saga, where revenge and redemption waited hand in hand, ready to shock everyone who had ever underestimated me. Dinner was surreal, like stepping into a dream I feared waking from. Nathaniel's dining room glowed softly in golden hues, and the table was filled with dishes I'd only seen in magazines. Yet, the man seated across from me was what truly captivated my attention. Nathaniel Beckett, the billionaire known for his intimidating presence, now sat casually across from me, his eyes warm with genuine interest. He watched me closely, not with scrutiny, but with gentle curiosity. "Ava, tell me something. Why were you working at that place?" His question wasn't judgmental, just quietly curious, but shame still crawled up my neck. "I needed money. After things fell apart with my family, it was the only place hiring." Nathaniel leaned back thoughtfully, the candlelight flickering shadows across his sharp, handsome features. "Families can be complicated, can't they?" I smiled weakly. "That's putting it lightly." He seemed to read my hesitation, his expression softening. "I understand more than you know. My father never approved of me, either. He thought I'd never amount to anything." My eyes widened, stunned. "Your own father? But look at you now." Nathaniel shook his head, a quiet sadness entering his expression. "Money can't buy respect from those who refuse to see you. My father only saw his disappointments, never my victories." A strange intimacy settled between us, our secrets intertwining like vines reaching toward the light. Nathaniel, beneath his wealth and influence, was just as vulnerable as me, just as wounded. But before we could delve deeper, his phone buzzed aggressively against the table, shattering the soft moment. Nathaniel's face tightened when he saw the caller's name. "I need to take this. Give me just a moment." He stood, stepping out onto the terrace, leaving the sliding door slightly ajar. Despite myself, curiosity drew me closer. I overheard bits of his tense conversation, each word pulling me deeper into confusion. "No, absolutely not. I don't care about appearances," he snapped sharply. "She deserves more respect than that." His voice dropped dangerously. "If you push this, there will be consequences you won't be able to afford. Trust me." My heart raced. Who was he talking to? Before I could retreat, he turned back toward me, his eyes meeting mine through the glass. He hung up, rejoining me quickly. "I'm sorry you heard that," he said softly, sensing my discomfort. "That was my publicist. Apparently, word of what happened today has gotten out. They think your fall was staged by me for publicity." I swallowed hard, humiliation burning fresh. "I would never." He raised a hand gently, quieting me. "I know, but the tabloids love drama, Ava. My world comes with shadows, and today you got caught in them." The implications hit me hard. This man had stepped in to defend me, and now his kindness threatened his reputation. "Nathaniel, I'm so sorry. I never meant." He interrupted firmly yet gently. "Don't apologize. It's not your fault, Ava. It's mine for surrounding myself with people who value image over humanity." Silence hung heavy between us, emotions swirling. His honesty captivated me. Underneath his wealth and status was a man trapped by expectations, burdened by a world that rarely forgave acts of kindness. "You shouldn't risk your reputation over someone like me," I whispered, my voice breaking slightly. Nathaniel shook his head, stepping closer, his gaze intense and sincere. "I'd risk it again without hesitation." His words pierced my heart, filling the emptiness I'd carried for so long with a warmth I'd almost forgotten. For the first time in years, someone truly saw me, Not the poor waitress, but Ava, the woman beneath. Nathaniel took my hand softly, and my pulse quickened at his touch. Stay tonight. Tomorrow, I'll handle this. Trust me. Though uncertainty clouded my thoughts, his presence offered reassurance. Without knowing why, I nodded. Okay. But neither of us knew the storm brewing just outside his luxurious penthouse. A storm fueled by envy, bitterness, and the spite of those who'd rather see us suffer than find happiness. Nathaniel's world was glamorous yet perilous, and by choosing kindness over indifference, he'd set us both on a collision course with powerful forces eager to tear us apart. The next morning, the storm arrived quickly. Social media flooded with sensational headlines, pictures circulating of my humiliating fall paired with hateful commentary about Nathaniel's alleged publicity stunt. The hotel distanced itself, firing me officially for causing a scandal, leaving me jobless again overnight. My phone buzzed constantly with cruel messages, mocking me as desperate and pathetic. Yet, amidst the cruelty, Nathaniel stood unwavering, offering quiet reassurance that kept me grounded. Days later, while still reeling from the chaos, Nathaniel surprised me by inviting me to an exclusive gala, an event I would never have imagined attending in my wildest dreams. Anxiety gnawed at my confidence as we arrived at the opulent venue, cameras flashing, eyes following my every move. I felt unworthy, like an intruder among the elite. But Nathaniel took my hand, whispering with tender reassurance, "They'll only judge you if you let them. Stand tall. You belong here just as much as anyone else." Entering that glittering ballroom, I felt dozens of eyes immediately fall upon us, whispers spreading quickly. My pulse raced, anxiety tightening its grip, but Nathaniel's steady presence anchored me. Suddenly, Kelsey, the same woman who humiliated me, stepped boldly into our path, eyes glittering maliciously. "So cute, Nathaniel. Charity work again? You always did have a thing for saving strays." Anger and humiliation rose instantly, but Nathaniel calmly faced her, his voice ice-cold and unyielding. "Careful, Kelsey. Jealousy doesn't suit you." Her face flushed with rage, her voice rising. "Are you serious, Nathaniel? She's a nobody. She was serving us drinks a week ago." His expression remained composed, but his words sliced deeper than any insult could. "Everyone is somebody, Kelsey. Maybe someday you'll realize that. Until then, step aside and watch." He guided me confidently toward the stage, where the crowd had gathered, awaiting his speech. Nathaniel stepped onto the podium, silencing the room effortlessly. Tonight, Nathaniel's voice resonated clearly, powerful and compelling. "I'd like to address rumors that have unfairly targeted someone dear to me. Ava wasn't part of some publicity stunt. She was a victim of cruelty and entitlement. But what those responsible didn't know was that Ava is exactly the kind of person our society undervalues, the kind whose strength outshines all the wealth and status in this room." Gasps echoed around us. My heart thundered loudly as Nathaniel continued. "As of today, Ava is no longer simply a waitress. She's the head of my charitable foundation, responsible for overseeing our multimillion-dollar fund dedicated entirely to uplifting those society dismisses. Her story, her bravery in the face of humiliation, inspired me to finally act on something I've delayed for far too long." Shock spread across faces around the room, and I stood rooted, disbelief flooding through me. Nathaniel turned to me, his eyes filled with pride and admiration. "Ava, will you help me show them what true kindness and strength look like?" Tears filled my eyes as I finally found my voice, strong and clear despite trembling with emotion. "It would be an honor." Kelsey stood humiliated, her arrogance crushed beneath Nathaniel's unwavering defense of me. All around us, murmurs of admiration replaced whispers of gossip. Days turned to weeks, and I threw myself into working alongside Nathaniel, creating foundations, supporting underprivileged communities, and transforming pain into purpose. Word spread quickly, turning the narrative from scandal into inspiration. Months later, standing beside Nathaniel in front of hundreds gathered at a charity event we founded together, I glanced toward Kelsey, humbled in his silence amidst the applause. The bitterness was gone from her face, replaced by quiet reflection. Nathaniel squeezed my hand gently, whispering, "You've shown everyone what true grace looks like, Ava. I'm proud of you." I smiled, heart swelling with emotion. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." He shook his head softly. "You were always strong, Ava. You just needed someone to remind you." As applause thundered around us, I understood the true meaning of redemption. Not revenge, but finding worth in myself and lifting others as Nathaniel had lifted me. Our paths, so different, now intertwined by kindness and resilience, had proven that wealth didn't define value, and cruelty never truly triumphed over compassion. That day, a poor waitress pushed into a pool had risen stronger than ever, shocking everyone who once laughed at her humiliation, proving that sometimes kindness truly can change the world.